Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lydia and I am your Money Mentor Online, a financial literacy advocate. I'm here to talk to you today about investing and how it's not just for rich people. So why do we all think that investment is for rich people? Because we all have concerns about whether we are educated enough about our finances. So I think that most of us need to, most importantly, get an education about our finances, which is what I'm here for. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is the fact that, to start with, it's a misnomer, it's a misconception to think that only rich people invest. Many of them didn't have anything when they started, but investment is what got them rich. It's got them to the point of being rich. So we cannot assume the fact that only rich people invest. Everyone should. Okay? Why am I saying this? Okay, initially, when we started out in this country, for example, national insurance was supposed to be the way that everyone got paid for their pension. I remember that. We were told that. And we all thought that we were safe because the government would save our money for us, take it from our taxes, and we will be fine because they will pay us the correct amount at the end of our working lives. Well, as we can see now, what's being paid out for national insurance is really not much. And you find people who had a cost of living or a standard of living that was much higher having to downsize and cut back because what's being provided through national insurance is definitely not a livable income. So our place is to make sure that we prepare for ourselves. And that's why we invest. We want to be able to do that. Personally, I think we should be taught this kind of information in school. It's a real pity that we're not. But financial literacy is not taught in school, but it should be. And so that's where parents or adults have to go and do their own research today in this day and age to be able to understand why we invest. Since we don't have that financial literacy, it can sound scary. It can feel intimidating because we don't know what we're doing. But as with everything else, if you get an education about it, it helps you make decisions. So, for example, recently, my son had reptiles brought into the home. And he had the opportunity to touch a snake and touch a bearded dragon. He had the opportunity to touch various snakes and a bearded dragon. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I was raised in a place where if you see a snake, either it kills you or you kill it. I was raised in West Africa and we throw stones at snakes and we kill them and we burn them. That was what we did. However, what I realized when this lady educated me was that these snakes weren't venomous anyway. So to start with, they weren't going to spit in my eye or do something to me that would make me, die, basically. The snakes that she showed us were actually constrictors. They were constrictors rather than venomous snakes. So at that point, me, who had been terrified of snakes all my life, was able to hold 3 snakes. I didn't touch the bearded lizard, I'm not going to lie. That was not for me. But I did hold the snakes because I was educated. And here's a quick picture of me holding the biggest snake that was there that day. I'll put it on the screen for us to take a peek. It was terrifying for me to have thought that I would even do that ever in my life. But with education, I was able to make a judgment call. And I actually was able to do something that I'd never been able to do for all of my life. So, same with finances, guys. It is super important that we understand the choices that we're making. And how do we get to understand them? Well, we have to research and we have to educate ourselves. There are simple books. For example, Rich Dad Poor Dad is my favorite. I'll put a picture of it up here. Take a peek at it. Another one is The Millionaire Next Door. Take a picture of that there. And there are many, many others that relate specifically, for example, to the UK that I will put on here and here. So take a moment and maybe if you're not a person who likes to spend time reading, audiobooks, they are for you. I promise you'll be able to find Rich Dad Poor Dad on YouTube for free. It's not something that I'm going to send you a link for, but if you search for it, you'll find it. It's free. Get into your car as you're driving, listen to that book so you can begin to understand what financial literacy is. If I sent you to school and you never got to learn how to read, I would ask the question, how? But we never ask ourselves, how is it that we're not financially literate? So it's super important that we take the time to do this. Let's educate ourselves. Come back to this channel and I'll keep educating us to make sure that we understand how we're supposed to grow our finances and not blow them. So why do we invest? The first reason I will give is because we want to make sure that we protect our money against inflation. Okay? Your money, the value of your money today compared to what it will be 10 years down the line is going to decline. Why? Because inflation will eat at your money. So investing helps us to protect ourselves against the venomous fact of inflation. Because think about it. Look at your bills. I remember about 3 years ago, I was paying £68, for gas and electric bills. Okay? Down the line, I'm paying over 200 and almost £300 for my electric and gas bills now. So all of a sudden, from the same salary, we're seeing that inflation is actually biting our money. So we're not able to get as much as we used to get out of our money because of inflation. And it will continue down the line because inflation works alongside with time. So our place is to make sure that we invest so that we can grow our money rather than have our money being eaten by inflation. So that's one reason why we invest. The second reason why I like to say we should invest is because investment can buy our freedom. If we have enough investments, it buys our freedom. One of these days, I'm going to bring someone on this channel that we're going to talk about how people have been able to free themselves from having to do a 9-to-5 or doing a 9-to-5 that they didn't like and choosing another kind of 9-to-5. I've seen people who, for example, have downsized, moved to a place where they are able to live in a house debt-free. And what used to be their mortgage is now their travel money, and they can travel around the world. There are other people who I've seen who have done similar things, by buying property, for example. And in doing so, they're able to replace their income. So investments give us the opportunity to buy our freedom. Think about that. And what we need to understand is that money is really not there for us to blow on stuff. Money is not just a tool to buy stuff, okay? Money is in fact a tool that we use to buy our freedom. So it's important that we take our time to understand that. We can buy our freedom by making the right investments. So that's the second reason why we invest. And to be honest, those two are enough reasons for me. If you want to find out more, you can definitely dig into it. But these two things are the most important things. We want to protect our money against inflation and want to buy our freedom. And it doesn't have to be after retirement. It doesn't have to be after the age of 60. We can actually do it a lot earlier if we do it right. What else does investment do for us? Investment compounds our money. Investments can compound our money. So what is compound interest? Compound interest is where your money multiplies on top of itself. Okay, so think about it. If, for example, we talked about in other videos, I've talked about putting 5,000 in a bank account for a child or tied to the stock market, and how that money is likely to grow to about 945,000 by the time they turn 55. What is that? That is compound interest. That is when your money multiplies itself because it is growing. And it's not just doing 1 + 1, it's doing 1 × 1, 2 × 2, 3 × 3, which makes it grow more and more. And the beauty of compound interest is that it works with time. So the sooner you begin to invest, the better. There is no reason for us not to invest except for the fact that we're not having the opportunity or not having the education. So let's take the time to educate ourselves and then make sure we make those investments. I've talked about the fact that one of the best, easiest and tax-free ways to make investments in the UK is ISAs, and stocks and shares ISAs in particular. So I'm going to hammer on that again. If we don't have one in 2025, I want to encourage us to go ahead and create a stocks and shares ISA for us. If you actually hop into any of your bank apps, okay, you will see the opportunity to do this. If you just search, it will take you to the right page. But before you do it with your normal bank, what I would recommend is that you actually go online and search on Google for the best types of ISAs. And Google will point you the right direction based on the rates and based on the correct information that is right for you. Remember, investments are like a glove. They have to be able to fit your hand. They're like a shoe on a foot or a glove on a hand. Investments have to work for you specifically. So you can't just say, okay, John did that, so I'm going to do it. My recommendation for you is that you understand your needs, your financial goals, your objectives, and therefore you'll be able to invest accordingly. So it's not just for rich people. Anyone can. Anyone can. Okay? Anyone can make a choice to invest, no matter what your income is. But even if you earned £3 and you take £1 and put it aside as an investment, that is a good place to start. You can start with £20 a month and put it into that account. Start somewhere though, because if you start today, that gives you the opportunity to see your investment grow. But if you start tomorrow, you've already lost a day of compound interest. So let's make use of that today. Now, one thing I wanted to highlight very quickly is the difference between trading and investing, because I think a lot of people have a misconception about what trading is compared to investing. So trading is different from investing, because trading is evaluating individual companies or indexes over a short time frame, okay, and buying and selling stocks over that time frame. It's very important that you understand that this is short term, okay? Investing, on the other hand, is primarily long term. And some people tend to do similar things where they will go into stocks and indexes and use those to buy, but they buy over the long term. So one of the time frames I mentioned earlier was from the birth of a child to the age 55. That is definitely long term. Okay, for some people it might be a 10-year investment time frame. For other people it might be a 15-year. For other people it might be 5-year, but it is not short term. It's not on a weekly or monthly basis. So it's important that we understand the difference between those two things. Now, if you want to learn more about trading, you certainly can. There are many, many books about there. It is something that I understand a little bit of, but it's definitely not something that I do on a regular basis. So I would say, if you don't understand trading, don't jump into it, please. But please take the time to invest. That is your starting point, okay? That is a place where anybody can start. A lot of people feel that they can hop into trading and they feel like, oh, I can do this because I took one class. I used to work for a trading company, ladies and gentlemen. That is not true. Don't think that this is something you can read a book or go to a short-term class and do. Make sure you get a proper education. Make sure you fully understand the psychology of it before you jump into it. Investments, however, you can do little by little. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. So please know the difference between the two. So as I wrap up today, the one thing I wanted to highlight to you guys is the fact that I said it a little earlier, that investments need to fit you like a glove on your hand or like a shoe on your foot. It's super important that you sit down and make the choices that you can make about your finances and where you want them to go. Now, I've talked about the fact that I encourage you to use the tax-free allowances that we have to actually benefit yourself in the UK, but there are so many other ways. But our place is to do the research. So I set my goal here and I decide how I'm going to work backwards, and that way I can reverse engineer getting to my target. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the first thing we need to do. We'll talk more about this in my next video, but I really want you to take the time to see where your goal is at your retirement age and your choice of retirement age, and then reverse engineer your way backwards. I will dig deeper into this in my next video, and I hope that you'll be there to join me and watch it. So before I go, I would like you to hop onto my website, sign up for our e-newsletter. It is a great newsletter that'll be coming out every quarter. And also, I'd encourage you to like this video, share this video, and of course, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next one.